My guy, man. First of all, thanks for being on tonight. We're going to be doing this more and more. Kind of what I've been trying to do with Uncommon for a while. It's not about Uncommon, but the thing that I've always been passionate about as I've moved into this other direction is people understanding from longtime coaches like you, parents, kids, families that are trying to navigate through this process as it's gotten tougher. Just topics, anything that can help a kid, an athlete, or a parent, because you know how confusing it could be, period, but also how confusing it is now with the challenges above. So, one of the things I want to talk about tonight, and before I really get into the topics, but with you in particular being a JUCO guy, coached at every level. We'll talk about that later. But being a JUCO guy, you have a shorter period of time with these kids coming from a very different environment to get them to understand the transition. So, can you tell me some of the things in that first month when a kid is making a transition to the college level that can help maybe parents and athletes that really are getting recruited right now by colleges?
Yeah, I think it's different for every level just because of resources. You come out of high school, I think come in, get acquainted, get with your team, see the campus. Location makes a big difference as well. But I think you come in with the expectation of what do I need to do to get involved, whether it be with basketball, your classes, socially. And I think, you had Coach Ryan Marks on the other day saying it, socially and on campus is a big part of it. If one of those areas doesn't work, you're going to cheat the other areas. So when you go to college, no matter what level, but especially JUCO, it's different, and you don't have a lot of the same resources that the four-year schools have. So what can you do to separate yourself and get acquainted right from the jump? And that's just, I think, just get involved, make sure you're talking to people, get with your team, and get adjusted. Really, really strive to get adjusted early, and that way you get off to a good start as the semester begins.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I don't want to be able to point, but I want to make sure people know that Coach Havens, longtime friend of mine, but also the reason I love guys like Coach Havens on these original first shows, like I was telling Marks, man, when I'm like Joe Rogan or the Letterman, you guys would be my first two guests that made me popular. But in all seriousness, you have such a diverse background. So some things translate, some don't. But at the end of the day, man, getting a guy that's been NAIA, D2 research, and I knew you're Division One past as a player, and now a JUCO head coach. Some things, like I said, are pretty still university. Rules are different, but like you have such an extensive background as a coordinator and so much experience. I think you've been on is just so good for these parents and kids to hear key things. So one of the key questions when I was kind of looking at how do I ask this and actually get information that will help these kids and parents, but kids in particular, like what are two things? I mean, that if you're a player and you're up in college, that you don't want to be brought into the office for, that you're going to be brought into the office for, and two things that you want to be brought into the office for when you're making that first impression. And it does matter in that first semester, whether you're a great kid or not and can figure it out. Let's start with the two things that you want to be brought into the office for the right reasons. Like you have a kid a month and a half with you at Richland, and you go tell your assistant, "Hey, bring them in." What are two things that kids should be being brought in for that is really important to Coach Havens and Richland College?
I think, to preface it, I think all these are going to be the same on both ends. Attitude and effort, both ways, good and bad. And then academics, your attitude and effort on the court. As a coach, all we can ask for is that you give us your best and you have a positive go get 'em attitude and let us coach and try to correct the certain things. Obviously, we recruited you there for a reason, but if you give us good attitude and good effort every day, we're going to bring you in. That's the first positive I can say.
Example, I don't want to cut you up. Like this year, you're back. Your kids are coming in. Last year was such a wash with COVID. I mean, or maybe it was the year before, a kid you brought in, maybe it's a returning captain, senior, or maybe it was a kid that was on the bubble that came back and had a whole different approach, and you brought him in and said, like, can you give a kid an exact example? Like, hey, you're doing, whether it be classroom, court, well, because attitude is so broad. I remember bringing kids into the office when I wanted to reinforce, hey, that's what I expected last year or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
what's that mean? Like when you're bringing them in for the right reasons.
Okay. So like, we've had, we'll have return. Obviously, I'm not naming names on any of our guys, but,
Right.
guys that maybe didn't maximize their potential last year for whatever reason it could be. And this year say, hey, you're doing this. Think about if you would have done that last year. You may have gotten a scholarship. Our guys, I let my guys get recruited after year 1, year 2, it doesn't matter. And last year was a weird year. But if you would
And a
have
typical
really,
year. That's how I usually
yeah,
just a typical year when a kid.
yeah. But if you would have maximized that first year, really sold out and done everything you could, think about where you would be now. And now you're just making those strides, right? Like, and to answer your broad question, kind of expectations, my big thing for any kid, come into college with no expectations other than to make a positive impact, right? Don't come in with, I got to average 20. I got to do this. I've got the expectation of this. I almost say come in with no expectations other than to be a contributor, right? Whether it be a 5-minute, 20-minute, 4.0 student, come in with the mindset that I'm going to do whatever it takes. If it means I play 10, I play 6, I play 30, I'm going to do whatever it takes with no expectations. So then I don't have that ego of being let down because, in high school, I was a big time guy. So, that's a lot of kids, 4-year, 2-year NAIA, D3.
Yeah, if you're playing college, you were the guy in high school.
100%. 100%.
I mean, there are, like I said, some coaches and I, when we chat, chalk talk, and all that behind closed doors, there's that one unicorn. I ain't talking about a unicorn. Let's give the parents and families and players that are trying to navigate through the process straight from the source. A guy who's done it for so long, different bosses, but there's some universal things that can help you, whether 20, 30% tune in or get a message that helps a kid um, move on to the next level instead of being an elite varsity player. Man, awesome. That's what this show's all about. But like for me, I'm not going to answer your question because I want it to be about you answering. But
Yep.
I always said to my staff, on Friday we're going to meet in preseason. I want to know who worked the hardest. I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
I said, and let's bring them in, and but just who was the hardest worker this week? And I gave him kind of a sheet. Don't tell anybody. Don't guess. If I had the same name, I wanted that kid to know. I didn't care if he was a player, like you said. He's making an impression that all the coaches we ain't even started practice, but he ain't a maintenance or it ain't a draining of a okay we heard about. So that was always one thing for me on Friday. I used at the end of every preseason week. Who had the best week work? Like you said, forget talent. That was kind of what I was making that
Yep.
first impression.
Yeah.
And so,
a lot of it goes to those intangibles. Not everybody's going to be the guy. Like you said, they were in high school. And no matter if they're the guy or not, if they're not the hardest worker or attempting to be, we're not maximizing it. We're not getting that top level if we're not giving it everything we got. And, one big thing for me is, and I know it was for you and most college coaches, these kids, academics matter. That's part of it.
Give me an academic example of bringing a kid in for the right reasons. I mean, you give them you got a lot more structured plan in college. You're not riding the bus. They don't have. I mean, they're there to play college basketball and get a degree.
Yep.
And they're not. I mean, if they make other things important, okay. But what's one thing academically where you want? Maybe you say it in front of the whole team. I mean, is there an academic standard? I know you have academic goals, but an example of a kid, even if he's struggling, that is important to you regarding academics on how they're approaching.
Yeah, I mean, I think you set the standard. You're going to class. You're gonna go, right? That's regardless. You know that, but just do your best. Some kids are just A students, and some kids can really bust their tail and be C students. And being realistic with them about getting that extra work in. Like, hey, we're gonna meet with you. We're gonna do study hall, but it's gonna take more than that, right? And so when we start getting grade checks in, and we're gonna start assigning, tutor times. You go in there and you get that extra work. The only thing I ask of my guys is give me your all. And if a C is your best, then hey, I'm gonna give you a hug. But if you're an A student getting C's, we got some issues, right?
Man, that sounds like me, man. I'm not gonna take out the Jon Havens book because I ain't got near as many wins as you, and I damn sure didn't play D1 or have the accolades. But that sounds exactly like my philosophy.
Yeah.
As a kid from Mississippi, I knew these kids. I knew that he went to every tutor. They don't understand that. I would congratulate him.
Yeah.
That's called learning. You got to see. I wasn't a GPA dude. That matched how I was on the court. So that kid, he adapted as opposed to the guy who was probably the same guy off the court, like in your preseason, giving you C effort. Like I was if we have a plan and you just don't know math, because I didn't know math.
Me either.
You can tell. Coach researching outside of the GPA. I mean, I think that's a great point. Now, if you have resources to help your kids,
right? Absolutely.
I don't want to answer for you, but again, because we're just kind of messing around. And then you have guys that acted like the math and the math teacher stinks, and you check 2 weeks later and he hadn't been to one thing you set up. That was a guy that worried me in making that transition. But that kind of leads into the next question. And please be very specific. You can be brutally specific, because I think, again, information is power. I'm not trying to be like a NCSA or BS. So, I mean, the reason I want to add this show is you guys are informing, and you're a college coach. And I want to get different coaches' personality, but the parents understand what they're looking at. And recruiting, when you get there, what are 2 things that absolutely 4 or 5 weeks into the preseason, examples that you don't want to be brought in? And when is it time where you say, hey, I got to bring in player A? It's time. And I'm talking about we're 5 or 6 weeks into being in school.
Yeah, 5 or 6. First and foremost for me, it's your class. If you're not going to class and you're not taking, there's no point in being there. We're college. The books and ball deal, it's a cliche, but it's true. Like if you're not taking care of your books, you're not going to get to play ball. I don't care how good you are, because you come to junior college for me to go get recruited to a 4-year level. So if you don't have A, there's no sense in doing B, right? And so that's first and foremost. And if you don't go to class, you're not going to play for me.
Please, man, this is for entertainment. I don't want it to be all serious. Again, you're not naming names. What's an answer you've heard from a kid? So if there's a kid out there that says that to a grown man who's coached college for 21 years and thinks he's sitting in there that's about to go home, what's something you don't want to say? That's what I try to do with my mentoring on the back end of events, is give them everything that can get you out of there as far as just recruiting in general, and it can get you home, like in season. So what's a good answer as you're sitting and looking in a young man's eyes that he gave you for not going to class, the bare minimum? Because I got a book full of them.
Oh, so do I. And the worst is, I just overslept. But I'll give them credit. When they tell me that, they're probably telling the truth, but then it's not important to them. But we, as you know, we get a bunch of, oh, well, my car broke down. I had a flat tire, right? You don't even have a car, right? Like, let's be honest. A lot of those things like that. And for me, we can correct it early on because we do a lot of grade checks and class checks, but don't lie. That's my biggest thing for our kids is trust is a 2-way street. And without trust, we can't have any kind of team. And so just don't lie. Be honest. Don't give me the stupid. Because
I like that, Coach. I think that's good. I mean, you're going to make mistakes. It's not perfection. Most kids make the biggest mistake by trying to lie their way through the first semester.
Yep.
And they're just making mistakes that are very correctable, very fixable. They'll just say, Coach, I did this, because you're going to know anyway.
Yeah.
It's kind of like recruiting. All right. 2 minutes. So, I mean, like I
No,
said,
you're
that's
good.
what you don't have your own office, man. One day I'm going to have Joe Rogan. I mean, it's Joe Rogan like. I mean, somebody's got to use the beauty angel up here. So hopefully he'll give me 10 minutes. But that's a great analogy of a kid. Not only he digs it deeper.
100%. Like you make it worse. Like you're already in trouble. So let's do what we can to try to salvage and get better and learn from it. But when you lie, then you got to stick with it. And it's not our first go around. We're not our first year in coaching and haven't done this. We've heard it all. And we know it's true. And plus, kids learn this. Your teachers will talk to us. They will email us. We will reach out. I talk to almost every one of my players' teachers at least once a semester, just checking in on them. Hey, how are they? They're saying they're doing this. Is that accurate? And that way, because we meet with our guys 2 or 3 times a semester about, hey, where are we at in academics? Let's pull up your grades. Let's do this. And again, that goes down to me. I tell every one of the kids, I won't play you if I don't trust you. I don't want you here if I don't trust you. And if you can't trust me, you shouldn't be here. So let's make sure that's a two-way street. And honesty is always, it may be hard, but at the end of the day, it's the easiest route. So be honest, go to class, do your work.
And making this transition, and because I'm probably going to have to cut it 2 minutes short instead of with my guy, the beauty angel out here. But if a kid, because this is what kids don't get, I think this is going to be a great answer. I mean, whatever your philosophy is, he's not getting a lot of playing time. He's realizing really quick that there's every kid here is the best kid on our high school team. I mean, these kids think that Richland or D3 even or some NAIAs is not basketball. They don't. I need to go understand it. Of course, they're trying to win, and there's good programs, and junior college, like I said, you have a shorter period of time to help them understand all this. So I think these topics are really good for my first JUCO coach, but like they're not getting playing time. What approach has worked? I know my answer is looking at kids like there's only one thing that works, but for you, where is a kid that maybe didn't play 7, 8, 9 games at Richland? You saw that he was improving. I mean, what do you recommend to kids that get there and not playing at all, but end up being a player for Coach Havens and a key guy by his sophomore year?
Hey,
What approach they have?
I'm going to give you a prime example. I'm going to make it quick. My current assistant, a prime example. He came in, was a great high school player, great, 35 a game in East Texas. Struggled, couldn't touch the floor first semester. Came in, struggling. What do I need to do? Do that. Hey, just come in every day, work hard, be the best defender and best energy guy you can be. The other stuff will come. You've got this ability. Obviously, you're here. Second semester, averaged about 10 a game. Came back as sophomore year, first team All-American, right? It's about not letting them quit with their effort and their attitude. Pep talks. If they're good kids, they're coming to you. What do I need to do? I want to touch the floor. As coaches, we're saying, hey, we got X amount of minutes. You need to go take minutes from player A, right? So go out there every day and try to beat him. Try to kick his tail.
First of all, that's a great point of what. And again, it's not about another that's going to enter what I'm doing with this show and what I'm going to try to do. But that is a great point. Like if you failed and you're not a top prospect, and the reason I've done all this is because of that. Yeah. The kids like Aaron Gonzalez last year, they even said, well, give Aaron credit. He didn't make the top game till his third time. But I saw when I started putting my name on him, it's because of that. Like, man, maybe that kid by a Lubbock Christian college readiness, he didn't bitch and go home and say, it's a fair platform, but you can increase your own recruitment. And I used that kind of philosophy, and he became an All-American. That's what I've been most proud about is through the Uncommon deal is, kind of looking and predicting. It's not exact science. It's because of that.
Yeah.
Like I saw him tougher. Yeah. He wasn't a loud kid. I saw him play into his strengths. I mean, I just try to mentor him the way. And I saw guys that didn't make the top game their first time when you can earn it, and that's it. You never see them. Like, dang, that's going to be a hard one to transition. But Yeah, I mean, effort and resiliency, and because again, I mean, you can't sit there for 5 games. Nobody cares in college. I tell kids about being a victim. This is not high school where you're going to go in and have a parent meeting. You're in college.
Right.
I mean, you worked your whole life to get there. You might as well fight to stay there because every day. And the second thing you said, and I'll let you belabor that a little bit, beat him out. Yeah,
Yeah.
when kids get a little duress in events, I said they're going to try to beat you out every day. They're objects to win. Either you're going to get better, or that player above you is going to get better. But we're trying to get better.
Yeah.
I think it's a win-win for coaches. I mean, is there something to that philosophy, or am I way off?
No, you're right on that. You hit the nail on the head. It's, that old saying, the iron sharpens iron. Right? If you don't compete, if practice isn't harder than games and competition wise, you're not getting better. You're not going to be able to, you have to go at it in practice every day. And what a lot of kids don't realize is most coaches base everything they do in a game off practice. Do you perform daily in practice? Because it goes back to that trust. Well, I know Jimmy over here is going to be backside help if if we have to rotate. I know that because he does it.
So you mean after a bad practice, about the 10th one in a row, sitting over on the side chair moping, it's not going to help. It's not going to get your attention. I mean, you're not going to go. I mean, that ain't going to work.
Yeah, usually not. Usually not. So,
hey, I'm going to bring up stuff to make it very specific so people understand, because that's called body language. I mean, I'm trying to get away from general stuff on this particular show, because I want it real specific. Because you're a college coach,
yeah,
been Division I, you've been a Division I player. You've seen kids at Richland in particular who nobody wanted, who turned themselves in
yeah,
a full ride player.
absolutely.
He's the same. And what's going on with the portal? I mean, and so that approach, I try to tell them, and I'm not being funny anymore. That doesn't work and I bet you have that. Some kids after practice wanting everybody to notice them for the wrong reasons. What do they look like?
Hopefully, you always hope you don't, but you always will have at least one. And that's where, especially at my level, you got to talk to them and tell you, hey, that's not going to work. If I were a college coach and I'm in the gym watching you practice and you are doing that, I'm crossing you off the list immediately. I'm just done with you. And if I come to like when I was at the 4-year level and even my level, if I go to a high school game and you're bad body language on the bench, bad body language, zero effort in the warm-up lines, I'm immediately done with you. Like, those are things you can control. You can't control every shot. You can't control every bounce of the ball, but you can control your attitude and your effort and being a team guy every day. And I know you recruited some really good players, and I've been lucky enough to recruit and coach some good players, and they all had that characteristic, right? They're going to go hard all the time. Or I say all the time, most of the time. But what these kids don't realize is when they're out there at a camp or they're out there at a high school game or AU game and they're not going hard, or they're sitting back on the bench with their legs out or a towel on their head, like, that's a turnoff for a lot of coaches. That's that cool guy as opposed to the tough guy. And, we kids don't realize we look at that, and we're going to notice a lot of those things, especially if I'm in a position where I'm potentially going to give you a scholarship and I'm going to put how I feed my family in your hands and how you behave and act. Well, then I got to do some research and make sure that risk is worth it. And it's a big risk because, as you know, at the 4-year level, if you don't win, they get rid of you. And so we have to be very diligent. And it's even harder now with what you said, the portal. Everything is amplified and magnified times 10.
And again, I want to spin it always in a positive so people understand. All I'm coming, because some people think I'm like scared and almost. I'm trying to get you to turn interest to offers in the sense that, I mean, you go attack that.
Yep.
Like, it's okay to fail and fall in your face. Like, go show that. Be selfish. Like, opposite. Even if it's not natural, start being selfish and look. Even if you're tricking yourself, look like a great teammate. Go hard, trick their ass. Like it percent, because once coach. When I say the word coaches talk to coaches, and people hear me say that at various events, that means once 2 coaches see that, whether it's right, and we're hanging out at dinner, and we're talking about Joey, and you may tell 2 coaches while you're driving, and they tell 2, and Joey may have been on 10 boards. I don't think people understand, or the opposite. If you're a little under the radar or underranked and you're doing those things you're saying, Joey may be circulating. Now you're figuring out what he can do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to move out here, but I'm going to move because I'm going to finish the deal and get out in a second. But I'm not moving my hotspot, and we're just coming out to the hallway, man. So that's but that's kind of, to me, I think so cool what you're saying, and in the sense of giving these kids some insight. That's not just about, hey, play hard and effort. I mean, that circulates. It's hard to recirculate. That's why I say, hey, especially if you're 20, 22 right now.
Absolutely.
Let that perception circulate. Make them coaches like you before they even know if you can hit a jump shot.
100%.
I mean, so the last thing I say, because I want to end it with most things that talk about just recruiting in general, like what's the number one trait? I know we've talked a little bit about everything. I hear this word toughness, and in your standpoint, if you could give 2 traits, because I think kids misinterpret what toughness is, because that's a universal thing when coaches ask me about leads. What are 2 traits that define toughness? Or real toughness for a college kid? Because I think some of them think it's like banging their chest and all that. I mean, what is toughness?
Doing the right thing, doing the hard thing every time. Defense, defense is toughness. But we had a talk with our team this week about toughness is passing up the one pass jump shot to get a layup, right? Not shooting within the first 10 seconds. Can you run off? Can you execute? That's toughness, right? Can you get a defensive stop? That's toughness, right? And that's just the basketball part. We could go into the toughness about getting your butt up for an 8 a.m. class. That's toughness. But you're right. I've had guys that, every time we score, they want to celebrate like they won the Super Bowl, and it's
but you're saying that you're gauging that in practice. I mean, a kid, when they say they're overwhelmed, all you're really doing is demanding that they get stops in practice.
Yeah.
And communicate. I mean, and the more you do it, to me, you can still make that transition, like you talked about the success stories, or you can fold up and say, "Oh, this ain't no fair," because you've never had to do that.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna have to get through a screen. That's, like you said, that's toughness.
And if you came into my gym and you asked my kids, "Do we get screened?" They better say no. Like, we're not getting screened. We're going to fight through that. We should. We try to teach them that. Not all of them do, but those are the traits that we try to implement in what we do daily is the toughness things, because what that will do for a lot of these kids, and I know this is a different, bigger picture, but it's going to translate into life, right? And so we're trying to teach those life lessons with it. But yeah, the toughness, the not getting screened, the taking a charge, diving on the floor, those are the toughness drills that are things that we look for.
Well, man, I'm gonna get because I definitely did not have a meeting room. I'm gonna leave the session slightly early. We're about 22 minutes anyway, but man, I just am blessed. I mean, like I said, you got to start somewhere. I've been hiding from technology, and today another crappy deal, but I'm feeling more comfortable with it. This is more Coach B right here. Like, stuff's going wrong, I'm staying focused, I'm staying the course, and the only thing I really care about is the knowledge you're spitting out for real. I mean, the only reason I'm really passionate about starting the show is because these kids get a lot of voices. I'm not saying trainers are bad or strength coaches, but in the last 6 months, I've been saying you need to understand, not because of me, you need to understand, if you really want to know how to increase your recruitment, the mind of a college coach.
Yeah.
And that's where this came. You need to understand just as much as I can. So forget technology still ain't great. Me and Sherrod, your UTSA ex-alum, who's awesome about helping. I thank you for your patience. One day this will be in a professional setting and a podcast, and we'll be chopping it up. But this is still awesome, I think, that you came on and spent some time, Coach, and providing some insight, again, straight from the source. You're a current college coach that's coached at every level for different, and a lot of the things you said, hopefully, if kids do make it, maybe 2 things that you talked about help them that first semester get off to a good start, whether they're playing 1 minute or not, you could still be setting a great impression to sustain. It's going to take more than one semester for 90% of kids that make it to college.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
That's why I wanted to dig into that topic with you tonight.
Yeah. Don't come in looking for instant gratification. It's come in trying to be the hardest worker in the gym every day, and good things will happen. But that instant gratification usually does not happen in college. It's a process.
And that's the hardest thing kids are going through, the environment they're going in. I'm not going to mention what environment I think is good or bad, but everything out there that y'all are getting them. And that's what I'm trying to do my best to be a small little part of the solution. But these are just kids, man. Everything they're going through is instant gratification based. Jump teams. I mean, they don't think that's important. I said, hey, pick a select team and stay with them.
Yeah.
If you're recruiting starting to rise and they don't play you one tournament, or you don't let every coach in America switch team. They're going to ask why you switch teams in the middle of the live period. Well, you didn't play one game.
Yeah.
I mean it with all my heart. I mean, I said, they're going to research the lead. Stuff like that is what you're talking about. The instant gratification world. Stick with it. You'll increase your recruitment for 90% of the kids and coaches out there. And again, I don't do this for the high major. Somebody will take a chance on them, and they're going to have to grow and either go down to NAIA or learn and go pro. But they're still going to have to learn. They're still 18.
100%. Yeah, it's like I said, there are that percentage of guys that no matter what they do, someone's going to give them a chance, right? They're just so uber talented that, all right, we got 13 scholarships, let's give them one. We'll take a chance on them because that's high risk, high reward. But we'll do that. But for the people, like you said, the uncommon, that window is a lot smaller, and that margin for error is smaller.
Can you just move it out?
Yes, bring it on out.
Can you?
Can I?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. You guys are nice, man. I mean, it's all over a tanning bed. That's fantastic. I'm gonna let you go in a second, but I'm gonna get in there.
Are you working on your tan already?
Not me. I mean, that's where they put me in. That's where they put me in. Remember, my car's in the shop as well, man. So I mean, I'm sitting over here. It's been that kind of day. But this guy's been awesomely nice. Just allow me to let me use the room, man. This is not Lifetime Fitness, man, where they have all the fancy. But I'm a Planet Fitness guy. You know what I mean? That's what I can afford. I try to make it affordable for everybody. So I have no problem. Like I said, this is more my speed. But the message has gotten across. I think the three best things you said to recap, and I'm going to again give these folks that are going to see this your real background. But you've been a national champion. You've been a 4-year Division I player. You understand resiliency as a coach and a player. But you said three things I think are so important about just don't lie. Kids are going to make mistakes your first semester.
Yeah.
They're not dumb. Just the fact own up and go up and they know that you can maybe make it to second semester, second year.
Yeah.
They're going to try to help you. Most coaches are there to try to help you. I don't want to ever say, but that stuff can vary, and it's just kids. Instant gratification was a great point. You're not going to change what these kids are going through and select basketball and what they're being told. That's why I spent 6 years, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, where I promote progress. Everybody roadmap. I'm just looking at the back end of my events, who's making the most progress. It's almost a prediction on leads in the spring. You got to sign the kid. I mean, I'm not getting kids offers. I'm just trying to line the ball up on fits, but they got to sign the kid. And then stuff like that. If you got one look, and it happened last year when they came to the game, and then I got bitched out by a buddy, like, are you kidding me, coach? So at my event, maybe. Seriously, I said, well, what do you mean? I said, I thought the kid can do A, B, and C. He said, yeah, he was a perfect Pittman pot guy. But the first time he got subbed, I want to make these points are so awesome for these kids. Like, you're really looking at them at the water bucket if there's money involved. If you're really there to look at a kid, or if you're there to sign a kid, then that stuff,
It matters.
it matters. Especially use this information, players and parents, to your advantage. It could matter in your favor with this portal. Like you know, it can go either way nowadays. And
Yes.
so I appreciate everything, especially bearing with me with the movement. Thank God we're buddies, and man, I got a lot of respect for what you do. I mean, I got a lot of respect for coaching in general, but being in a junior college setting and you being in 4-year settings with some of the coach, I'm sure you had to adapt some of your coaching tactics to have the success you've had at Richland, but not adapt your philosophies. And man, congrats on all the success you've had there and a national title and winning last year and such a tough year. And man, best of luck, coach, and appreciate your time, my man. And hopefully I'll see you at some spring events, and I'll have some kids out there, and you'll be able to see them in some environments that, you know, where you can find some kids that may fit Richland College, man. I appreciate everything you're doing.
I appreciate you, Coach, and what you're doing. Like I said, I've gotten a couple of your kids and had great success with them. So keep sending them my way because we're going to need them.
Good luck, Coach. Take care, man, and get back to your family. And I'll be in touch soon, man. Take care.
All right. Appreciate it, Coach.
What's up, Coach Sherrod? Man, I handled that great, man. It wasn't the best deal, but I mean, I didn't have with my car being out. And are we still live?
Yep, we are. But
Sorry, close me out.